You are welcome in our midst. I'm happy to make this presentation on high performance systems. High performance system is a global concept. It's not limited to Nigeria. It is actually not good enough that we are not catching up with what others are doing. It is a concept that came up because of the need to get athletes to the podium. Globally, countries that are serious in sports have come to realize that talent alone does not take to the podium. The big countries in sports appreciate the input of science in optimizing performance. And what this system entails, in simple terms, is to integrate all the best practices that athletes need to take from the cradle to the podium. That is essentially what the high performance system is all about. There are bits and pieces of what must be done, and they have to be integrated together to get an athlete from the cradle to the podium. So what does it entail? Because of time, I will do a capsule form presentation, because I know you are very busy.
You are not busy, just go ahead and do those.
Okay.
It's very difficult. We have all the time.
All right, sir. The first thing is, it entails, one, you should have a good scouting system. A little boy may be somewhere in Damaturu, may be somewhere in Ilaro, and he's talented, he's 5 years. You have a system to pick him up. Okay, and if you pick him up, you have top-notch infrastructure and facilities to nurture this talent. You have the quality of coaches who understand science and the basis of performance. You have what we call performance directors. These are people who have background of coaches, but they bring in management and they have a broader knowledge to organize and plan training programs. Do you have the required sports medicine input and science input? When we talk about science, it is evolving every day as far as sports is concerned. You talk about sports nutrition, psychology, sports science. It involves bits and pieces of so many things. And then you have a high performance center, which I know is the area you are particularly more interested in. We'll go into details on that. What high performance center means is just a unit of the system. What it does is that it is a one-stop shop where you have simple and sophisticated equipment that are used to do the science analysis and science things that are required in sports. We're going to talk in detail on that. Then you talk about adequate nutrition. These are bits and pieces. Nutrition is a big subject in sports today. What do they eat? How do they eat it? When do they eat it? It is extremely important because difference in performance is little. Little things make a lot of difference. So it involves attention to details. Everything is programmed and is in detail. How do you bring the athlete? Where are they going to train? I'll give you a simple example. If Nigeria is going to perform in Tokyo Olympic Games, you have to ask, what is the temperature in Tokyo? What is the relative humidity? What is it going to be like in Tokyo? So when you are choosing where you're going to camp, you have to factor in all this. If you are going to travel, you have to think about it. How many hours are you going to have? You want the quickest possible route. And then if you are going to Tokyo, for example, you say, maybe Tokyo is 6 hours ahead, it's going east. And in science, for each 1 hour change in time zone, you need 1 day for acclimatization. So you have to sit down and factor all these things. They're going to enter into the aircraft. You have what we call jet stress and jet lag. Because in Tokyo, maybe they're getting close to sleeping. And the body has a clock. The body clock is adapted to the environment where you are. So if you don't...
We understand all that. You need to go on. When you say to do detail,
I wanted to cut some of it.
You can't tell him to do detail and then you will not get him.
So what is high performance center? High Performance Center is just a unit of the system. It is a center where you have science equipment, some simple, some sophisticated, so that you have, because sports is multidisciplinary, so that in a collaborative manner, every person who has a technical input will sit together and make decisions. So in a high performance center, if you talk of personnel, you have doctors working there, but it's not just a sports medicine clinic. You have physiotherapists, it's not just physiotherapists. You have a sports scientist, not just the sports scientist. You have a sports psychologist, not just the sports psychologist. You have a nutritionist, it's not just the nutritionist. You have the trainer and even the coach. Because just the way we are sitting is the way you're expected to sit in a high performance center, in a system to discuss and analyze issues and make decisions that are informed, not decisions that one person makes. It has to be a decision that is evidence and information based. So what is the high performance center supposed to be doing? Number one, it is a center where you do exercise testing. It will interest you to know that today we talk of exercise prescription. Just the way you prescribe Panadol or any other medication, is the way exercise is going to be prescribed. And before you do that, there's something called physiological assessment, which is a part of the thing that the high performance center is all about. Physiological assessment means that as athletes come in, you're expected to analyze them physiologically and determine where they are, so that when you begin to train them, you have metrics for assessment whether they're making progress. If you look at athletes, you have to know the aerobic threshold and aerobic. You have to have all those indices. That's what called physiological assessment. And then it is a center that gives you opportunity to assess training response. Because most of the time, in the time past, what they do is just come, run, do this, do that. But how do you assess your response? You see countries that do blood gas analysis, all sorts of things. Because that's what guides the manager to know where the athlete is before he even goes to compete. And then you have things like strength and conditioning. And of course, we have the traditional things there also. The sports injury clinic, the sports medicine clinic, the rehabilitation. So it is all encompassing. The difference between it and a sports medicine clinic is that sports medicine clinic is just attending to injuries. But in sports, it is not about treatment, it is about performance. If I'm doctor for Arsenal now, the team will not be happy because everybody is healthy. The team is happy because there is something I bring in to make the team to win. So that is the concept. So all sports medicine and science personnel, as well as performance directors, are expected to work together. That is one of the most important principles in it. Everybody sits together and discuss decisions. So now Nigerian experience. In 2012, Nigeria participated in London Olympics. We didn't win a medal. It became a big issue. It was an embarrassment. How come we cannot win a medal? In 1996 Olympic Games, Nigeria got 2 gold medals in football and the individual events in the long jump. Great Britain got only 1 gold. We beat them. They were 36th. But by 2016 Rio, Great Britain got 27 gold, 26 silver, and Nigeria got only 1 silver medal. So it is not as if their talent base has changed. The only thing that has changed is what they are practicing. And that's what high performance is all about. So in the Nigerian experience, after that 2012 we didn't win a medal, it became an embarrassment. There was a presidential retreat, and one of the things that came up as an extremely important aspect of our sports development is that Nigeria should have a high performance system. So the center that we are talking about now is just a component. It's not everything about it. So the then Honorable Minister moved with speed. We were thinking of Rio 2016. How do we, get things done so that things will improve? That was what led to a lot of decisions. Part of that decision was to have a high performance center, to have a high performance system. But this center is only part of it. And contracts were awarded for those equipments that will be necessary in the high performance center. Then there were plans also to have a purpose-built facility. Because if you see a typical high performance center, it is one-stop shop. But we don't have a structure that will fit in for all those things. But all these things were done simultaneously. There will be a building to accommodate it. As I'm speaking with you today, it is still on drawing. The building is still on paper. It's not done. So the contract was awarded for the equipment. And unfortunately, so I limit myself not to go into so many things. Unfortunately, there was a problem with performance. The contractors were not paid. They were giving 10% mobilization. That was all they were giving. And then it became an issue. You have issue of dollar parity, naira changes. At the end of the day, the contract performed maybe about 87% if the files are here. It didn't perform 100%. Then you know the way it is, different regimes, different agenda. The contractors were not paid. We in science were not happy because we feel that this is the route Nigeria must go. But then we were afraid to make use of things that we are not paid for. As God will have it, when this current minister came on board and he heard about things like this, he became interested. That was why last year he gave approval that this contract should be terminated at the performance level and that this equipment should be put into use. Okay? So as of last year, because of budget issues, it was not possible to just repair them because it's what comes out in the budget that you utilize. What came out in the budget, maybe the DFA or the Director of Procurement can recollect. I can't give the actual figures. But as we are talking today, they have not received 40% or 30% of their money. And then the one-stop center that should have been the house for all these things, not constructed. It's only in this year's budget that for the first time we have 170-something million for the high performance center, which should be the building for this project. 30 million. And everybody laughed because 30 million cannot play around, can do nothing. So it's only in this year's budget that there is something for the center itself. So the situation now is that the equipments are there, and with the ministerial approval, what we did, because these equipments are varied, there are different types. The small ones that could be used on field are being used. The ones that could be installed in the physiotherapy department, because the equipments do different things. The ones that physios can use, some of them they have taken, but majority of the equipment are not in use, and they are all in the store, in the stadium. And then the other vital aspects of the system are not functional at all. They are not functional. They are almost moribund. It is this sensor that we are struggling to see how we can get it on stream, because we think that gradually we can get the other ones if we start from somewhere. So the way forward is for us, that's why for me I'm very happy that you came. The way forward is to pay the contractors, because we are heavily indebted to them. They have not received, I can't be accurate, but I'm sure they have not received 40% of their pay. And then to accelerate the construction of the purpose-built high-performance center, that is the building itself, because it's extremely important. And then to gradually see how to activate all the components of the system. Let me give you an example of what I mean by all the components of the system. When they practice high-performance system, what happens is that from identification to elite level, you have a plan. Now Nigeria say we play principal score. But you play principal score and you identify somebody, what do you do with him? In Pretoria, University of South Africa, in the high-performance system, they program that they train an amateur 10,000 hours to get you from amateur to elite. So they get you at the age of 13, they have a school. You go to school, you come back, you train under high-level supervision. So the other components of the system, that's where I'm going to, means to have all these units that will bridge up the gaps in our system. Because what are the gaps we have in the system is, we don't have sports schools. In places like Cuba, they don't have a lot of money. But they have regional sports schools, meaning, like Nigeria has 6 regions, you have junior and senior schools. So each region competes, and by the time you pick young people who are good, they have a system where they train on daily basis at the highest level, under the watch of top-level coaches in top-level infrastructure. So by the time they get to 16, 17, they are top elite athletes, highly exposed. If you follow football, you see that in all the top clubs, they have this nursery. That's why somebody is in Arsenal by 16, you can play in the main team. So activation of this system, the other components of the system is extremely important. The final word before I sit down, sir, is that for Nigeria, in all sincerity, for us to actualize our potentials in the area of sports, we must use speed in this system. Because the global standard that is practiced by all sporting nations, that is why today some say that sports is dwindling. The truth is that sports is not dwindling. It's because there are things that we need to do, which others are doing, which are not doing. In Moscow Olympics in 1980, the person who came first in 100 meters ran 10.25 seconds. But the current world record is 9.58 seconds. What it means is that if you are returning 10 seconds now, you can't get to the final. You can't even get to the semi-final. And that is the challenge we are having. It's not because they're getting more talented, it's because they are doing something. So the only basis for us to realistically expect reproducible and sustainable results in sports is through this system. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That was initiated in 2012 to 2013 is a very, very vital thing that should be used, especially in a year like this that we're going to the Olympics. I'm sure the Permanent Secretary will brief us on their meeting if in actual fact we concluded that the 2020 that's turned to 2021 Olympics are actually going to hold. But having said that, the document is submitted to us showing all the equipments that have been supplied since 2013 are more or less abandoned. It's a very, very distasteful thing. The fact that millions of funds, federal government funds have been spent, and these equipments were just left there without being utilized. And if we're talking about equipment supplied in 2013, I'm sure there are newer, more digitalized equipment that are being used now. So the fact is those equipment are probably not useful any longer. But with that in question, I want members to give their own submission on what they've seen. I would be the last person to speak about this situation. So I'll start on my left. Deputy.
Here we have attached pictures of equipment. We don't have detailed lists of this equipment. We only see pictures. So I don't know which one is number one, or which one is this, which one is that. So we need, so we need the inventory of this equipment, how much was spent on this. So we really need a perfect and comprehensive inventory of what we are seeing here, because we cannot really ascertain that these equipments were from this. So we need an inventory of these equipments attached with the payment voucher of what is already here, if it's not in what we have there. And my question again is, I'm a little bit worrisome that if the high performance that we are all talking about need a center, so why hurriedly buy equipment before the center? And that's the major reason why the equipment are abandoned. We don't have a center, and you hurriedly went to buy equipment to do what we did. Where are you going to keep the equipment? And now the equipment are abandoned. So I don't know at what meeting that kind of decision was taken. You don't have a center that you put the equipment, but you hurriedly went to buy the equipment. So we really want to know what happened and how that decision was taken.
Very nice and okay, but in real sense, it is all about low performance, not high performance again. Because if you are opening the center for a purpose, I don't see that purpose, it means that that essence has been defeated. Now my question is your straight question. From 2012 till date, this concept was raised by your ministry. I believe that this has been having budgeted allocation every year. This high performance item has been given budget every year for you to buy equipment. Is that true?
No.
No.
The contract was awarded once. Okay, sorry, wait.
Only once?
Yes.
Okay. What year was that?
That should be 2013. Should be 2013.
2013.
Yes. It was awarded once.
Okay, Honorable, have you asked a question?
Yes, you want to do that first. But that's it.
Okay. Let's
Yeah.
No, it's a question. He has to look at it. Whoever is going to take the record. He said yes.
The honorable chairman says if we can take note of the question so that
yeah,
we
so
will answer once, if I'm correct.
okay, so that means
But I want to go further.
the question is which should be noted down. Has high performance only been budgeted for and appropriated for and funded and funds released only in 2013? So next question, we'll go on, we'll continue.
Yeah, thank you. As a writer, the money budgeted for the housing, the structure that we house the equipment, and we said in that year, was it 30 million or so was budgeted for it, which is which is grossly inadequate. So I would just want to ask, what happened between them? Which year was the money budgeted for, and what happened between then and now?
So basically, the honorable member is asking, let me clarify, you said was the appropriated fund cash back and released is the question the honorable member is asking. Okay.
This photocopy of this item, by the grace of God, if you look at it critically and very well, you discover that most of these photocopies are repetition. You can sit down very well and look at them. I don't know. Are the documents still on ground? That's my question, sir. The equipment, sir. Yes, sir.
So basically, let me clarify this question.
It has been rightly pointed out, but what my concern is, I still want to hammer on Babo's submission. Yes, he specifically mentioned the question that when there's no, our brother here said, the issue of the center of the building is still just on the paper. It's still on the paper. If it is on the paper, what is the reason for rushing for procurement? That's one. I want to ask, civil service is just not like we in the National Assembly. You may be interested today, tomorrow will be somebody else. But the civil service, there's a hierarchy of, and there's also progressive training of, and of course the continuity in the civil service. If a director is transferred to another place, another director is taking the place and is continuing. So I just want to know who is actually responsible for such decision to procure those items at that time when there's no building on ground.
Okay, so
very important. One, a little bit from this document and ask. It's so beautiful, the idea of the center and the current situation that we have been, now we have been becoming modern, even from producing poultry products of chicken and of agricultural products. We are even coming to now bring a poultry product of young men. Now I can remember in 1994, Nigeria was almost about to come to the second position of semi-finals in the USA, where when we defeated, I can remember we defeated all the superpowers of the world in football. It's 96, what? Yes, we defeated US, we defeated Argentina, exactly. We defeated Brazil. That time, I don't think this idea of high performance is there. Was it there?
No.
What was responsible for that performance at that time, and then subsequently we continue to perform at that to the to that extent at the time? Is it the issue of this collaborative, something that is not there, or what is exactly the problem? And why are we not performing again as expected of Nigerians? Schools, all the information, all the train their kids. How are we firing with them compared to South Africa and Nigeria? We still defeat them in so many aspects of sports. Why? Despite the fact that we don't have the street centers. So if we are going to have the centers, it's okay, going by the convention. It's okay, going by the convention, but I still feel that there's more to it than even the center itself. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
How the decision was arrived at. Thank you. So, Honorable Jatal, do you have any questions?
If I am allowed, I will quickly go to an area of procurement sometime in 2020.
Is it about high performance?
No.
Okay, so let's finish on high performance. Do you have any question on that?
My question is also order as advice. The high performance center, is it just one located here in Abuja or across the nation? So if it is just one, it's not effective. We have to have
one in each geopolitical zone.
Well, the one we are talking about.
So, do you have any question?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, as ongoing project, it is not capitally captured. Is it captured as ongoing project?
Okay.
And the second one, sir, where is this equipment kept? And there is no evidence of receiving of this equipment from the store, at the store that who received this equipment, and where is it packed if at all is supplied?
Okay. Now, let me ask my own question. My question borders on the contractors this high performance was awarded to. In them, with Mr. Star Continental Limited. We would like you to please enlighten the committee, clarify which particular portion of this high performance is for Mr. El Bashir and Mr. Star Continental Limited. Because these are two contractors, we need to know exactly what contract or portion of that contract was given to each of them so that we can be better enlightened on what exactly is going on. Important question. The National Institute of Sports, are they not involved in any initiative similar to high performance? Because that's an institute of sports. Is it not the National Institute of Sports that should actually be in charge of this high performance? There is a bill that I've initiated that is going for second reading, trying to make sure that National Institute of Sports is changed to National Institute of Sports and Research Science. With that bill, shouldn't this high performance be domiciled with the National Institute of Sports and Research Science when that bill is passed? That is my own question. So the Permanent Secretary has the floor to answer the questions he can, and he can direct the directors to answer the ones.
To the first question, the amount spent is already in the documents we gave. Just the two contracts, that's the amount spent for those equipment to the two contractors. And the inventory is we will do that one, who will supply it. And somebody, a member asked where they are stored. They are very close by at the National Stadium. We can always organize a visit to show the committee.
Sorry, Chairman, please, if this equipment were already bought, I'm sure that the inventory should be available now. So can it be available to us now before we leave this place?
After the meeting,
I think what the member is trying to say is this. We plan on going to the stadium today. So whatever the supply letter, because the contractor would have supplied an equipment and the store would have signed and noted that these equipments were actually supplied, could you get one of your directors to go and get us that list so that when we get to the stadium today, it's not something that is going to be done afresh. A contractor supplies equipment, he will list what he has supplied, it will be signed and received by the ministry. So it's just that document we need a photocopy of, so it will be appreciated if they can go and make a photocopy before we go and do that inventory confirmation.
When was the items supplied?
2013. Let's
You have to for all these things now.
It's a 2013 contract, yes.
Yes, and the equipment that was supplied that time is what you're going to look at now, right?
Yes.
Okay, simple.
Today, I was thinking we'll make a presentation here, but there's no problem with that. It's just coming to my knowledge. We go to the stadium, and before we go, we circulate the inventory. It's available. So, this procurement was actually packaged into 4 segments. It's a complete package made up of 4 segments. One is the building, one is the equipment, one is the staff, establishment. There's a director and other staff complement to run it. And there's a fourth company which I will subsequently recall. It was supposed to be procured and implemented at the same time, and I think probably that was what was done. I wouldn't know whether what happened in the process, but the director, both the Director of Finance and Procurement will throw more light on that. But just for your information, it's agreed that government is a continuum, but the Director of Procurement and the Director DFA, Director of Finance and Accounts, they are new to the ministry. What that means is that some information that could otherwise have been readily available, you may need to give us a little bit more time to look for it, to search for it, to make it available. So, was funds released only in 2014? I think DFA will take, both DFA and procurement will take that question. We didn't actually anticipate this question because what we know is that the bane of this high performance system has been budgeting, funding issues, of which, of course, this honorable committee can help the ministry to overcome. We've not been getting enough funds to implement the project. Because even as I speak, we are owing the contractors. They are not very happy with us, the 2 contractors that supply this equipment since. And this year, what was available in this year, 2020 appropriation we paid. We are still owing them. And we have checked the appropriation for 2021 this year. What is there is not enough to clear the contractors' debt. The DFA will give details. But we still don't have enough to even pay what they have done, the equipment they have supplied. Somebody asked, are the equipment on ground? I think this has been answered. On why we are not performing better after that. The Director of Sports Medicine will take that one. Minutes of meeting of 2013 on high performance. Are you Director of Procurement? Have you seen it in your files, in your records?
We will check.
If not, we will search for it. And how many high performance centers? I think for now it's only Abuja. There's no, but you know, when you start a project, you have to start from point. It doesn't mean it will eventually have to go around. Close it. And the inspection will reveal which equipment each of the 2 contractors supply, even the inventory show that. So, having said this on the general note, the DFA, you can give more details on the finance-related questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief. While the second contractor, who is Sahar, was awarded a contract of 95.9 million. And then they went ahead to supply the equipment almost immediately. And then if you look at the briefs of circulated, we have said that the amount paid before 2020, that is all payments from 2013 to 2020 in respect of the first contractor, that's Al-Bashir, was only 29.83 million, which indicates that all releases of funds in respect of that contractor from 2013 to that 2020 was only 29.8 million, while in the case of the second contractor, Sahar, only 27.409 million paid to him from 2013 to 2020. But under the appropriation of 2020, funds were released for those two contractors, and payments have been effected accordingly. The first contractor, Bashir, was paid additional 14.250, bringing total payments to date as we speak of 44.8 million, 44.08 rather, from 44.081 million, from a total contract sum of 98 million in respect of Al-Bashir, indicating about 44.5% total payments to date. In the same manner, Sahar too was paid under 2020 appropriation. He was paid 11.4 million, bringing total payments to date from 2013 up to 2020. Total payments coming to 38.8 in respect of Mr. Sahar Continental, which is 40.4%. Now, under the current 2021 Appropriation Act, there is a provision of 45 million to continue the payment of these supplies, because as at now they are still owing. The first contractor, Bashir, is owing 42. We are owing him 42.7 million, while government is owing 36.5 million in respect of the second contractor, Sahar. So what is clear here is that even with the current appropriation of 2021, which if it eventually gets released and the contractors are paid, 5 million naira is not enough in 2021.
The one for Southwest and South-South was awarded to EcoSolar International Limited, and the one for the last one, okay, the Southwest and South-South zones as well. So those contracts that are awarded, we would like the ministry to furnish us with a follow-up document, because if you have 9 federal constituencies, those federal constituencies should be an attachment to the award letter. While those federal constituencies attached to the award letter, which 27 federal constituencies are used supplying sporting kits to. We would like, because the letters show that the contracts have been awarded, who are these federal constituencies you are supplying equipment to? We would like you to enlighten us on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 8 million was appropriated for high performance, and 13.5 million was also the corporate sum has been recommended by the procurement department or whatever, and then the release amount also was 13.5 million naira. It is 2019. I don't know whether these equipments are also among the equipment that we're going to have visited by next week, or...
Did you say 2019, sir?
Yes, from the document that we got from you. So what you are reading there was quite strange to us. Probably you're not finished with what you are reading to us. the release of all that we have
I'm
only.
reading from the brief for you.
DFA,
I was reading from
this document, maybe we should come and take this document. The document I referred to you to that your ministry gave us, I said you should get it from them. Look at page 80. You will see, number 81, where it shows appropriation, it shows the amount released, budgeted, and the amount paid.
81.
Number 81. This is a document that was given to us.
From your office. So it contradicts what you are telling us recently, just now.
Well, I was not the author of this document. I never started one.
So the author should come and speak to the government. Government is a material.
Yeah, but Marcel, back down. He said from 2013, 2020, it was, yes, combined together. It was, for Al-Bashir, he had the payment of 29.83 million.
Everything. So
Everything.
from 2013.
I don't know whether this one was included or not. But that was what it was. No, that was.
2019 was before 2020.
Oh, okay.
2019 was before 2020. So definitely.
So if you're not the author of the document, it's very simple. I won't get the author of the document to come and speak to the document. It's very important. You understand?
No, this
because we ask for
this information given to me as concern. That is what he said.
Okay, give me that document. Let me clarify what the member is trying to say. It was on the 26th of October 2020. 1 hour. Now, the thing is this. This document was prepared for the former permanent secretary. And whoever prepared the document still exists in this ministry. You are the new DFA. I'm sure you have people working under you. They are the ones that prepared this document. Even if there's a new permanent secretary and you are the new DFA, whoever prepared this document still exists in this ministry, even if you are just not on board. This is a document that was given to us by your ministry. We didn't prepare this document. It was this document that was given to us by your ministry. So what the member is saying is that who prepared this document and why are the figures, there's a disparity in the figures. Because over here it shows that 28.5 million is the appropriation. Yes. And 13.5 million has been paid fully. So why is it that the figure in your own document is different from this?
What I'm saying here is that 13.5 million that would have been paid in 2019 would have been part of the total payment that would have happened to that contractor from 2013 to 6. 2019 is the year before 2020.
Okay, so basically I think
that's what I say so far, 22 all payments from our.
Okay, to make things easier for everybody, we are still going to continue on this high performance. The documents we've requested, what we now need is this. In 2013, the exact amount paid that contractor, both contractors separately, the documents you use to pay them should be made available to the committee. In subsequent years, if they were paid in 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, up to date, every single year they were paid should be made available to the committee separately, showing exactly what amount was paid each budget year. Because you cannot just give us a summary of amounts paid without us knowing, so that if you give us the details, we can now come to the total amount actually paid this contractor. So we need those documents so that we can actually have a true picture of the funds that have been utilized for this high performance.
And then it's going to be in constituencies here, selected constituency. Me, I'm from South South. There may be another South person here representing this constituency. It's our duty to know. Even if it's not coming to my own constituency, I want to know the constituency is going to in that South South. And it's not stated here in this letter. This letter is very big. So we are asking, please brief us more on this letter that you have awarded. so that we can stick home and tell our people that things are coming to you people from the sports ministry. Thank you.
State, and I do not see anywhere stated in all your documentations that so and so federal areas constituencies benefit from these supplies or these contract awards, which is very, very paramount as far as you want to convince the committee about how these equipment were distributed, target areas for the beneficiaries, as well as other supportive documents to be able to make this committee to willingly accept your own point of view. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And he explicitly narrated and told them what we require. What we require is, this is just a mention of items.
The letter requested for mobilization that have been paid, but because these people have not been paid anything, we couldn't supply you that we have paid them this. If you check our postbook, the money is still completely intact. No single kobo has been paid on this end from anybody. So what the letter requested us to do is what we have done.
Okay, Director of Procurement, let me come in here now. Honorable colleagues, contractors meant to supply sporting equipment to selected federal constituencies have not been paid. Now the question is, have they supplied those equipment? Because these are award letters, meaning if they were awarded these contracts middle of December, there's a timeline they are meant to execute that contract or they will lose the contract. So the question is, have they supplied the equipment? And if they supplied the equipment, granted that what the clerk furnished to the letter was that you should give us award letters. Now, we visiting you today are telling you that those 9 federal constituencies in North Central, North East, South, Southwest, how you divided them in 9 federal constituencies, can you furnish this committee the 27 specific selected federal constituencies you are delivering sporting equipment to? You have the floor.
I know the items.
If you read that award letter, the procurement assignment is to issue an award letter and to say details about what to be done. We will give the specification as was provided. But every other thing about execution, this and that, is to a department, and the director is not here. So I can't be speaking on behalf that this is this. Okay. If you read that award letter, you will see it's stated.
Which department is that?
I think for that I was supposed to.
You are thinking.
Have you got that?
But I'm not supposed to. I can't cram everything. It's supposed to be.
Black.
Edit.
Where's the governor?
It's supposed to be edit.
Particular contract comes to the house to come and fully explain to the committee all the details of those particular contracts.
Not for
All your motions, please.
Mr. Chair, honorable colleagues, to the issues at hand, that the ministry headed by the Minister, Permanent Secretary, DFA, all the directors responsible for this issue should appear before the committee on agreeable date. Mr. Chair.
I want to amend. My amendment is that while coming for the appearance, they should come with all the relevant documents pertaining to the specific federal constituency involved in all the zones, given the award letter, and all the items, all the sporting items involved to be supplied. If you come with all the documents relating to it, why appearing for the
The ones are meant.
yes, then they should come along with the contractors involved. it should come along with the contractors of the two suppliers.
So the committee has moved a motion that this supply of supporting equipment to selected federal constituencies, totally 27 selected federal constituencies, all documents detailing the inventory list of the sporting equipment and kits, all letters that would show what the contractors have supplied should be made available, and the contractors should be coming with that director that is in charge of those equipments that should be supplied, and they should come along on Tuesday to come and see the committee. Those in support of that motion say aye. Those against?
Can I make a comment?
Please, you can say your comment.
DFA, the directors and people of the ministry. Our constituents know the budget more than us, and they ask questions. A lot of them. And when this thing came out in the budget, we had already told them that this thing is coming. And as politicians, you won't understand the pressure. We just came back from break, and you won't understand the pressure and questions, and even our those that don't want to see us in these seats are already using it against us. So please, take this in good faith. You help us, and as we help you, so that our constituents, politics is local, so that our constituents will understand the genuinity of this. They won't say that we have diverted this sport equipment that is in the budget. Understand our plea and please cooperate with us so that we make our constituents better at the same time make Nigeria better.
Can I make a comment to this?
Honorable Governor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Now, well, we are the committee that oversees this particular sports ministry. I want to appeal to you that you should appreciate that we are the head of our constituencies. Please be patient. You want to put this in consequences, consult us. My committee may prefer football. My constituency before. Some constituencies may prefer lawn tennis, and maybe golf and any other thing. For instance, if you are talking about a constituency like Ikoyi, my colleague is here. If they say, look, we want golf, they do golf this equipment because of the quality of people who are living here. If you are talking about a constituency like mine, they may say they want football. If it's particular, they may say they want football. Some rural communities, different things. So when they are picking people from, you must consult us. It's an insult for you to just sit down here and pick things per constituency. We're not the one we campaign around the whole constituency. We know what our people want. I want to add this. We know what our people want, because when our constituencies read the budget and say constituency, they come to us. Anything you are giving, once constituency is here, it comes to us. If you put the senatorial, the Senate should be consulted. Please, this is an advice for the future.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
In 36 states and FCT.
Okay.
I don't know whether you have the data.
Let's go to
They
that.
say in 36 states.
Yes, and FCT.
Wait. DFA, one down this weekend. You have the document. Okay. What the member is referring to is where you said award of contract for national digital skills development training for unemployed youth in 36 states and FCT at NYDC, DCOM, and Owodiegba. Now, you people always model up your pages now so that we don't understand it. So you people that gave us documents, and there's a different page for every member in your document.
It's a deliberate thing. To confuse.
So the question is this. Does this thing have anything to do with youth empowerment?
My chair, my distinguished colleagues, this contract of digital skill development and training should form part of the motion we moved earlier the director and the contractor should appear before the committee on Tuesday to explain further on whatever is of interest.
With all relevant showing what they've done in 36 states of the Federation. Please, who is the supporter of this motion?
Second motion.
Those in support? Those against?
Nay.
Move for adjournment.
Go ahead.
Honorable Israel Sonny Public, member representing draft member federal constituency in the Federal House of Representatives, do move that in the absence of further deliberation, this House will be joined Senator.
Thank you. Those in support? Those against?
Everyone is a concept.
Act, there was a provision to supply sporting equipment and kits to selected federal constituencies. And the sports committee expected that we would know exactly the selected federal constituencies this sporting equipment and kits were meant to be supplied to. That was the question we asked them to furnish us details of this.
Okay, looking at it this way, just two regions have gotten their supply so far, but without accountability. Who are we going to hold responsible for this?
I don't think anybody has gotten any supply. The Director of Procurement